Carolina Belen Espinoza Sanhueza, I hope I pronounced that right, completed her PhD in architecture at Laval University in Quebec. And she's currently seeking a postdoc position. Her doctoral thesis used a biophilic lens to focus on the study of light and color design in interiors for visual performance and circadian stimulation in extreme locations, specifically Arctic communities, developing methods and models to describe and predict emotions that light and color evoke. She brings a sensitive approach to architectural research grounded in perceptual sciences and technology. Since the neurohormones of birth are impacted by light and color, ambience, and atmosphere, this work is valuable for birth environment design, research, and practice. Let us all welcome Carolina.
I have my laptop here, so no worries.
I can guide you through the process.
Sure.
Yeah. I just saw it on the laptop. I was like, maybe.
Okay. So
Are you an extender or mirror?
I'm gonna use extended.
Oh, sorry.
Oops. Yeah, that way. Is it good? Yeah.
Slideshow.
Wait, normally it works. Yeah, nice. Super. So, thank you very much. I'm going to present a part of my research, my doctoral research that finished in 2024. The name is Biophilic Light and Color and Wellbeing in Far Northlands. I would like to mention right now I'm working in something a little bit different. I'm working in indoor air quality and building performance, also in First Nations and extreme climate. So it's because of that that I have my my affiliation with the Toronto Metropolitan University, but actually all this research was conducted at Laval University in Quebec City. So what are we going to talk today? It's about how biophilic design, and then I will explain what is biophilic design. So first of all, what is biophilic design and how light and color, which are related with biophilic design, can foster well-being in extreme built environments, including Arctic regions. We will discuss about what is the physiological impact of light and color in indoors. And also we will discuss about the attributes of light and color. So this means the way that we can describe colors and the way that we can talk about how these descriptions can help us to predict potential impacts or potential outcomes on people. So I always like to start showing this slide. This is a display of several ambiances. Before we had we use electrical lighting. So we use light for a very dim light for a specific task. We use it for cooking, to perform, of course, activities as having a meal in the family. We didn't care too much about where the light comes from because, of course, for example, in this first image, we are using oil that, of course, contaminates a lot the indoor air, so ventilation, quality of the air, freshness is not the best. We use it to survive or to eat, and also to perform our activities, our profession. In this case, as you see in the last image, for a fashion merchant. Of course, light is not the same today. We use it not only to perform our task, we use it to create a space, we use it to create health environments. And what is also interesting is that we need to accompany these light environments with electrical lighting. Why? Because, okay, I don't have the exact percentage. I remember I wrote it at some place, but a high percentage of population right now, they live in the north hemisphere, and they live they like of the daylight, and we pass the 90% of our life in indoors. That means if we live 100 years, the 90 years of our lives, we are going to be indoors, in our home, workplace, whatever. So it's because of that we use daylight, but we also must to reinforce this lighting quality with electrical lighting. Something that is interesting, and actually James also explained it before, the day and night cycles of our body are dependent to light exposure. So right now, light is not only necessary for to make a vision, to produce vision, to make an image in our brain. It's used also to regulate our physiological processes, from waking up during the morning, having a best coordination, for example, at 2-3 p.m., to perform in sports, of course, and then to prepare our body to sleep. And this is also, as it was mentioned, this is actually mediated by the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which they are highly sensitive to blue light, but also it must to achieve a minimum light level to make our body perform during the day. So the question is, what happens when we don't have light? When our the nature, the sky, the location doesn't produce the quantity of light that we need. And this is because we are actually very far, and we have a disconnection with nature, because the climate context makes us to be disconnected with nature, the temperature, the fact that we don't have light actually. So we took this approach of biophilic design, which is actually the love to life, the love to living things, living elements, including the light that is produced by the sun. And we must to, biophilic design, what it wants is to integrate nature into indoors. Right now, there is a huge literacy in terms of biophilic design, and is most of the time developed and analyzed in countries very close to the equator. So what is biophilic design in Northlands in the Arctic regions? And just to give you a perspective, right now we are situated here in Toronto, and there is all this part of Canada, specifically in Nunavut, which we have a great part of the First Nation population living there, which they are inhabiting the Arctic, and they have, this place is characterized by this strong photo period that, of course, affect the biological processes. As you see here in the second image on the right, what this image shows is that we have, in the vertical axis, we have the hours from midnight until it's a 24, but actually it's 23. So midnight until 23, and then we have January until December, and we can see that there is a big part of during the winter, from, I would say, mid-November until the end of January that we don't see actually the sun. There is no access to daylight, so in that place we must to require electrical lighting in indoors, but also there is a big amount of the year, 2 months, where the light is always there. So of course we need the use of all other strategies as intelligent facades, blinds, and etc. But what I like to concentrate is that the 42% of the time we need to use electrical lighting to conduct our activities. So we need to integrate light. Light is part of the nature, but also we were continue wondering what is biophilic design in the Arctic. And these were one of my first exploration about what was the nature. When I was looking photos of the nature of the Arctic, I just found snow and this huge sky with all these colors that tint the landscape. We saw the blue, the orange, of course, some other moments where we have this very nice purple sky, and other days, as in the right photo, actually that photo was taken from me, this very blue sky in the nature, and of course that it blended with all the landscape and the context. And I said, okay, so probably they have this big connection with the sky and with all the process of light that happened in the context. And then I started to do a building survey. I said, like, okay, so if these are the colors of the nature, how they implement these colors in public buildings? And yeah, we found some similitudes. We found that, for example, in the first photo, this individual cabin was painted with these very saturated colors. Then the computing lab in the primary school, they used this combination of orange with saturated pink. Then the paintings of the Aurora Boreal, and of course there were an implementation of blue in some of public buildings for higher education. And it's funny because actually they tried to emulate a kind of igloo in this hall. They used the colors of the Aurora Borealis. They used this aperture that they have indoors in the sky that normally the igloo, they have it for ventilation. Here they try to emulate, but it was more for to get a gain of the light indoors. So this talk a lot about how they integrate the nature and how it was in their representation of architecture to make these spaces to be more comfortable. During one of the visits, I was still wondering what is this relationship with the light and color produced by the nature. So I displayed several color cards. I put them for example, similar colors. I put it together, all the blue in one row, all the oranges in one row. And I realized that, yeah, probably they have a big attachment to orange, to blue, and to purple colors. But actually, all these colors they mentioned, they were present in the nature. Actually, they mentioned that, for example, green. Yeah, green is very nice. It's super beautiful because it remembers me the summer. We didn't know that they have vegetation during the summer. They have these little berries accompanied with these green tones. So yeah, they were also very attracted to green tones. And red, I would say, it was the less appreciated. But when we asked, how would you like to have your gym, your school gym in the to be painted? And they mentioned, yeah, red, because it's strong, it's a very attired color. So yeah, they presented an attraction to several tones, and of course, light was always present, not only related to the sky, but also they integrated in indoors through candles and especially during the ceremonies. So then when I tried to create these experimental procedures to do my research and to get my results, I mentioned, okay, but how colors, when you combine it, they can change a little bit the perception. And there is a full literacy in terms of the chromatic contrast. They can change, of course, the perception of the, how, for example, if I have a primary color, how will I perceive the second color that I will add to my space or to the setting that I'm evaluating? There is a lot of research doing that. Also, there are several projects that they integrated this only with the use of electrical lighting to change the perception of the sky in the photos on the right. And then I said, okay, so I'm gonna make reduced scale models, a physical model, and I will use similar colors, but I will just change the color of the floor. And of course, we see that the interaction between the both of them, they change the perception of a very warm space, for example, in the light, in the image with the yellow floor, and then it changed the perception of of course, of a cool space with the green floor. So all this to say that it's not only light that impact the human, these physiological processes, but also the architectural factors. They can change the impression, but also they can change the quality of the light indoors, because light and color, they depend. They interact themselves, so one cannot exist without the other. We cannot see color without light, but we cannot see the quality of the light without the colors. So we decided that both of them, they were very important, and we create all this theoretical framework to develop this project, which is related with the temperature of color, the intensity, and of course, the quality of the surfaces of the color. All these affect the well-being and the environmental satisfaction, and of course, we try to encapsulate all these patterns, these factors, in the context and related with the climate challenges and the photo period of the space. Right now, how do we evaluate this? This is very important, but I'm not going very into that because it's something about engineers. I had a lot of help from my colleagues from engineering. So we use images because images is something that you can storage and you can evaluate them, and then if you made a mistake with the photo calibration, you can calibrate it again. So we decided to use images. We gather images into a HDR file, and then we obtained data about the lighting levels for vision. That means to create this image in our brain, the levels that we need to develop some activities. Also, we gather information about the lighting levels related to our circadian system. How much light do we need to maintain this physiological process in our body? Of course, we got information about the correlated color temperature, which is the aspect of light. Sometimes you see there is kind of electrical lighting, which is they are very cool, although they are very warm. Of course, it changes a bit the appearance of the space. And we did analysis of brightness contrast. Why we do this and why do we use grayscale images is because with that, using a very, like a uniform grayscale, we can see where are our points of attention in the space. We use this method actually obtained it from reduced scale models. It wasn't more big than this table actually, it was very small. We connected I don't know if you see, no. Okay, but we connected a camera inside of that hole that you see in the physical model. And we controlled this camera from a laptop that took several still images, and we were changing the electrical lighting system, which was very crafty made. I did it alone actually using glue and make it to install it in the model, and we changed it with also another application that we have in the iPad. I would say that I probably took like 400 or more images, but I'm just gonna talk about the images that we got here. It's very interesting because from one reduced scale models, we obtain several images, and from one system, if we apply it in the real built environment, we can just turn off the lights and change the impressions of one single environment. So we tested images from a neutral environment with all white spaces, spaces with only one color as the green floor. Also two different colors, a yellow one and a purple one. Then we made combination, for example, in complementary colors and so on. And what we found is that we can only for example, using one color in the space and only making this turn off movement, we can change not only the impression, like the aspect of a space, but also the levels of light for vision. And this is very interesting because I heard several of you talk about how much important is to have the control of the light. Sometimes, of course, we need light because we need to know what is happening in the ambience, and this is for security. But also, we can create ambiences. For example, bright ambiences, but with very light levels, as you see in the middle of the yellow ambience, or other more darker, but also with a frontal light that conduct to introspection and contemplation, I would say. Some of you mentioned that dim light, it was very important for the labor because it can improve the comfort of the mother during the labor. And with only using one lighting system, we can, of course, using one lighting system, we can change, of course, the aspect of the light and the quantity of this, but also we can from similar spaces we can have from different spaces we can have similar outcomes. So it offers the opportunity to work with color, with working with light. What is interesting also about this image is that we always talk about how much light do we need to conduct these physiological processes. But there is a moment during the night that we need to reduce the light levels to maintain these physiological processes. According to literature, it must to be around 10 melanopic eri, and we realize is that, again, similar different ambiances with similar lighting strategy can produce, again, the same levels for maintaining this process in the human body. I will go on this example, same setting, same color temperature, and only the turn on the turn off of the lighting system, it can produce different different ambiances for different tasks. And of course, one of them, it doesn't produce the lighting levels that we need for circadian stimulation, while the other one, yes, it produces it, and it permits to control the quality and the kind of environment that we need for specific moments of the day. Again, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going faster. So again, here, according to the literature, it says that we need minimum 136 lux, melanopic eddy, to produce these our physiological processes during the day, and this exposition must to be during 4 hours. And something that is very interesting that we found in our research is that normally we know, of course, that the blue light is the primary the primary factor to stimulate the circadian system, but also its quantity. So, and in all these images that you see here, we achieve all the minimum light levels to induce this circadian stimulation. So it offers, again, the opportunity to play with color and to play with light in the built environment. And I would like to go very fast in this section because I don't have too much space, too much time. So, but the question is, how do we predict the impact of light and color in occupants, but in a perceptual level? And we work specifically with saturation and brightness parameters because it's very difficult to know what all the colors, my favorite color is not going to be the same of you. So we try to work with different parameters. We found in the literature that, for example, higher saturation, higher brightness, it can produce activation and energy, performance, and can be considered cheerful. However, color with higher brightness but lower saturation, it can call to calm or relaxation effects on individuals. So we use, again, the same spaces, and we try to understand how they could be described and perceived by some students. Here we work with the students in the atelier. They did all this description of the colors, and then they were able to at least to know how the light and color interacts between them and what are the potential impact they can produce. And again, we realize, of course, that the position of the light also influences in how we can perceive the space, from a transition versus a concentration of light. You can tell me, according to your experience, which one probably you could use to produce a calm space compared to another one that is it can induce concentration. And these were another approximations about how light and color, the type of light, which can be daylight or electrical lighting, they can, of course, change the perception and the quality of them. So about the conclusions, what I would like you to take into account in this about this presentation is that nature in Arctic territories, it's not what do we consider here. Nature is formed by another parameters. It's interesting to analyze it according to First Nations, and something that is very important is that each First Nation, there is no recipe to work with them. First Nation and their relation to nature can change. So in the case that you want to approach them, work with them, get to know them, and it's important to consider during the design process. Also, that we develop also methods to predict photobiological and subjective aspects of light and color, something that we didn't go into this before, but despite the pandemic and all the situation, we could have an approximation of them. And also, what is interesting about this presentation is that we create a catalog of light and color for architectural design. This is very cool in some way because some people, they don't want a single solution. They want to have options, and this is what they mentioned during our workshop. So this is one of our highlights that we got here and that we publish. And I know this presentation can be very distinct of what we've been talking about, birth spaces and midwifery. But I consider myself an early research career, so I know that there is a lot of things that we should continue investigating. But I just make a very small research on Google. What about birth spaces in First Nation communities in Canada? And the main problem that appeared is the trouble to get midwifery assistance and installations. Women, they cannot have their children's, not even in the village they are living. They need to take the plane, go to, in our case, they went to Yellowknife and passed 3 months far of their family and their other children, just in case they get the baby before the due date. So there is I think there is a lot to do. This image is one of the midwifery installations that are already in Yellowknife, but again, these people, they leave 3 hours flight to Yellowknife, so it's something to be considered. And I want to thank you. I learned a lot about birth spaces during all these presentations. It was I feel very grateful to have the opportunity to know you and to know what are you doing. So thank you, and if you have any question, you can reach me. There is my email there. Thank you.